So, this is day 2 of my vlog. Yesterday I went through a whirlwind introduction about me and what I want to talk about, things like that. Just to welcome anybody, my name is John Miller. This is my channel, yet to be named. I'll probably have some sort of name. Some of the names for things I've done in the past, one thing is called Field of Nodes, which I really like the name of. Other things have been like expected values, spectrum construction, a variety of different aspects of my past. I like coming up with some sort of name that's interesting and different and encapsulates the general idea of what the subject is. You know, if it's a type of construction, because I used to run construction ages ago. I like the idea that I was attempting to do the whole gamut of some sort of construction task, so I called it spectrum construction. Because the spectrum has the whole frequency range. And then when I was doing some consulting, I was thinking about who I was and what I like to do, and at the time I was really studying some of the abstract mathematics in my bachelor's, and you come across a subject called like field theory or just algebraic structures that are called fields, and they have certain properties. So I like that word field. And I was also studying graph theory. You can think of some sort of network that has like a circle connected to a line, and there will be underlying structures or shapes, and you can really take a look at many real world events under the idea of a graph. And not like a graph where you're plotting for every x value, you square it, and therefore you have some sort of like parabolic shape. This is more like, here's a circle or an object connected to another object, and each of those objects is independent, or they're in themselves their own thing, but they're connected somehow. So came up with this idea called Field of Nodes. So this channel, I'm not entirely certain what the name will be, because there's so much that I want to talk about. One of the things that I've been thinking about lately is this thing called the Kelly criterion, or the Kelly criteria. It's basically a way of investing or even gambling. If you were to Google it, you're going to come up with a lot of sports bets. But the person that invented it or discovered it from the Bell Labs back in the 30s or 40s, I think his name was John Kelly, and he wasn't really a big gambler to my knowledge, and I'll double check that. I want to do a video that properly discusses this. But effectively it says that if you're doing some sort of uncertain event, specifically like gambling or investing, in which you don't know the outcome and there's a potential that you can earn a return, then you should bet a portion of your bank, of your hold, that is proportional to how much edge you think you have. So if you feel like you have some reasons, you have some sort of deductions or some sort of mathematics or some sort of understanding of a situation that maybe other people don't, and so you think that I've got a 70% chance of winning, then the Kelly criteria says, okay, we'll take 70% of what you hold, and then you do that for every single bet. Then that means from a purely mathematical point of view, if you're not considering fees or transaction costs, or any other unknown discrete entity that could take away, that's not proportional to that situation, then you'll effectively never go bust. You'll always have some portion of your funds, and that means that as you think you have a better chance of winning, then you bet more, and if you feel like you have a lesser chance of winning, you bet less. And then some people in practice, well, they'll say, well, it's too costly to do that level, so maybe they'll do something like 20% or half or a quarter. And that might take into consideration if you have any sort of transaction costs or minimum bets. And so I was thinking about that a bit as something to talk about, which kind of plays around in my mind, thinking about what's the point of saying something like that. And I think the main point for me is, life is, as a rule, is so random. There's so many things that are unknown. There's so many things that we have an idea of what the future is going to be, but nailing it down is quite tricky. And the Kelly criteria popped in my head because I was thinking about randomness. I thought, well, what is random to begin with? What does it mean for something to be random? And, of course, if you look into like a dictionary, or if you look in Wikipedia, it'll say that it's something that has generally no pattern, no discernible pattern. So when we think about an event that may occur in the future, we could think of it as random because we don't know what it's going to be. We don't know what the weather will generally be like in a month, 2 to 3 weeks. Usually you have like a 10-day forecast, but it's such a chaotic system. How do you truly predict, what's the weather going to be on a Monday in 6 months? Maybe you could say, well, depending on where you live, 6 months will be the opposite season that I'm in now. So I could make some guess on the range of temperature, or based off of past information, I can make some observation that, well, maybe it's going to be sunny because, maybe in 6 months it's going to be winter, in 6 months it'll be summer. But that doesn't take away the fact that you don't know. And that's the nature of randomness is we can't discern a pattern. But there are events in which we can discern what the range of possibilities are. So if you talk to anybody that's ever taken statistics or probability in university, you're going to hear them say, and then you say, well, what's a randomness or something? And often what you'll get is you'll say, okay, well, imagine you have a coin and you flip it, and they'll say something like, you have equal probability that it'll be heads and it'll be tails. But in reality, depending on the coin, from whatever amount it is or whatever currency it is, then that coin will have different physical properties. And so some coins might have a heavier head, so therefore there might have an actual heavier probability of one way or the other. But either way, that for the most part, and your outcomes are going to be heads or tails. Now, of course, maybe there's a situation in which the coin lands perfectly on its edge, but that may happen so finitely often. So if you could imagine that you were going to infinitely flip a coin over and over and over again, well, there would most likely only be a finite number of times that you land on your edge. Or maybe there's an infinite number, but it's a far smaller infinite number than heads or tails. So for the sake of thinking about it, you could say, well, the coin has two options that it could be. It could be heads or tails. So rather than getting an idea of this big, large, esoteric idea of randomness, we could have that there is options of randomness. So tomorrow, if I were to flip a coin, I could know that it's going to be heads or it's going to be tails. So that's a random variable that there's some experiment that I'm going to conduct tomorrow. I'm going to get the results, but I don't know what it is because I haven't done it yet. So I can give an analysis of its possibilities. Or if you roll a dice, you know that it's going to be 1 through 6 if it's a 6-sided dice. If you were wanting to measure the temperature tomorrow, you know it's going to be some number. And based off of the system, whether it's Celsius or Fahrenheit or where you live in the world, you know it's going to be negative and it's going to be positive. Now, because Kelvin is absolute zero, then it'll never be less than around negative 273 degrees Celsius. But we don't know how hot it could get. The sun's very hot, so you have this idea that it's a number, it's a decimal number. In mathematics, you'd say, okay, well, this could be a real number that it has a lower bound, and it potentially has an infinite upper bound. And so you start getting this idea that in randomness, there are still ways that you can understand what's going on. So I definitely really like that about probability, is there's a lot of unknown, and you can think about real world situations and you can start making guesses about them. And as we go on with this channel, one of the things that I want to do is really to dive deep into probability. And now I'm not currently an expert in probability. As a machine learning engineer, I work with probability all the time. But then if you were to say, compare me to somebody that is a probabilist, which is somebody that deals like so purely with probability theory, they're going to know far more than me. And sometimes people that don't have any formal training in anything, but they have a better sense of uncertainty, then there's a chance that, you know, they'll know more than me in the things that they know more about. And I just want to share things that interest me, things that I like. Some of the big things that have really interested me are reading about people that have done some really cool stuff. John Kelly, and I got to double check the first name, but I'm pretty sure it's John. Claude Shannon, Edward Thorpe. Those are just three people that I can think of right now, off the top of my head, in this century, that I really liked. Well, actually, the last century, to be honest. But then, of course, there's the people of the past, and understanding how they thought, how they worked, I think is really, it illuminates your life. So I think that's what I wanted to say in terms of my thoughts. You know, today is I guess a little chat about randomness and probability. And when you talk about things, it really helps to have some visual. So that's coming as I get better at the animations and editing. But for now, I just want to do these vlogs where I just talk my mind. And as more people watch this, you know, I'd love to have questions or comments, corrections. You know, if I say something that somebody else knows to be wrong, then I'm totally up for that. To me, I view that as like the collaborative essence of knowledge. Knowledge itself is probabilistic. You know, there are certain things you think you know, but you really don't. We can't know everything. We can't understand every aspect of the quantum realm. But maybe we can at some point. Maybe then we'll be able to think about other things that makes quantum mechanics seem trivial. I'm not there yet. Maybe some people are. But yeah, thanks for joining me so far with this daily chat. As this is a vlog, I thought I could bring in some of my information about my daily life. And things I want to do is show aspects of things that I like. Like I love to walk in nature. So I'd love to take you on a walk somewhere. And so sorry if this shakes a bit. I keep bumping the table, but that's the point of this. It's gonna be raw. So whatever it is, I love to walk in nature. So at some point I'll take some walks and show you guys some of my local area. But yesterday I said that I was just gonna probably relax, be on the computer a bit, make some food. I definitely did that. I did my daily routine, and so this is my daily routine to get started. I wake up. And I love to say I wake up at 6 every day, or I wake up at 5 every day, but I'm a bit of a night owl and a morning early bird, so it just varies. Like last night I went to bed at like 3, and I ended up waking up at like 10. But what I like to do when I get up is obviously open my eyes and wake up. I sleep in a hammock, which I really love. It's just it's a really nice big hammock, and it's really chill. I swing and float and really enjoy that. When I wake up, I do a breathing exercise, which I only started doing this like maybe 4 months ago. It's the Wim Hof method. So I started by watching Wim Hof's videos, and he has those guided videos on how to breathe, and that was great. But what I found is that I didn't like the speed of the breathing. So, you know, if anybody's ever done Wim Hof, you know that you do breaths. You do this for some number of times. So you breathe in, you're like, and I've seen some people kind of really get into it, and so they're doing it like that, or like, and they're doing it fast. and they'll do it like 30 times. And then after the 30th time, they'll hold their breath or they'll breathe out completely. But that was quite fast for me. So I just said, you know what, I'm going to maybe listen to some really calming music, or hell, even I'll watch something that's interesting on YouTube while I'm doing that. So, that obviously goes against all the sort of meditation of keep your mind clean and all that. So I vary it. Sometimes I just want to be fully in my own head and really get deep into it. But at the very least, I do the actual exercise. And so I breathe really slowly and deeply for about 3 to 5 minutes, and then I hold my breath. And on average, I'm holding my breath for 2 minutes. Some days it's a bit harder. I've noticed this. Some days it's like a minute and a half is really stressful. Other days I've done 2.5 minutes, and on occasion I've done 3 minutes. And I've heard of people that do Wim Hof that can go for like 5 or 7 minutes, which I think is pretty epic. So I do the Wim Hof thing, and then I do the stretching. I do about 12 to 15 minutes of stretching on my calves and my shoulders. And the reason why I do that is I've noticed that I get this pain in my heel, and I watched a few videos on chiropractic work where they do these calf stretches for 30-40 seconds. So I do that, and then because I work at a computer, and if I'm not careful, I start to develop like shoulder pain and elbow pain, and that I just need to, like, I do some stretches where I get a stick and I kind of hold my arm back like this, or then I'll twist my arm against the wall like so, and I hold that for 30 seconds to 60 seconds. To get that stretching done. And then I do about 15 to 20 minutes of isometric core contractions, where I'm doing anything from my hip flexors, my abductor, adductor, sort of muscle areas, my core, my obliques, and my back. And it's not a lot of movement. It's like core, just isometric holds, like planks and different things like that. And then I take a cold shower. And because I live in the UK, the cold showers are about 9 degrees Celsius. I'm going to guess that's around 40 degrees Fahrenheit. And I'll do a cold shower, and then I'll end with a cold bath. So I'm in there for about 10 minutes and, get on with my day. But that's generally how I like to start my day. I'd love to be doing it at like 6 a.m. and that might happen at some point. But for the moment, it happens when I get up and then I start and all that stuff. And so I've done that today. I've eaten food, and I wanted to make this video. So it's funny how you start thinking about videos and what you want to say. And so I've been doing that, hence a little bit of a chat on randomness and on my daily schedule. And like I said before, my goal is to keep the vlogs one edit, or one take, no edit, raw. That way it's just me chatting, and this is the first time I've ever done this, and I'm really interested to see the whole story. When you hear people talk and they're like, oh yeah, I did this and that, and now I'm doing this, and that you're seeing them at their success point or close to that. And so for me, I'm like, well, let's just chat now as I'm doing this, as I'm thinking about things, as I'm learning about who I want to be. Let's just have it out there and see and do all that. So yeah, this just me saying hey to the world, I guess. Okay, I'm gonna let it go there now. I've chatted for significantly longer than yesterday, and I really appreciate everybody that's watching this. And of course, like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. At some point, I will be doing editing. For the editing, I've downloaded a copy of DaVinci Resolve, the community free individual version. So I'll be doing that, as well as I have an OBS system that I've set up to do screen recordings and do some stuff like that. So I can show like code snippets or whiteboard things and get some videos out that way, because I'd love to show some of the work that I do. Obviously not some of the work that's specific to some of my research, but things that are adjacent to that are maybe practical skills. Like I said before, Julia is a big thing that I want to discuss. Anyways, vlog number 2 is done. For everybody watching, at whatever point you watch this, just enjoy your day or your night or your morning, and peace. Okay, I'll see you.